just to build on the importance, in this issue, there's very clear policy opportunities to move the ball down the field, but ultimately our policy is a deep reflection of our culture. And a huge other component of the work, I think there's two things that don't get enough attention. I think we focus a lot on the policy, which is really important, but our culture just needs to get to the place where throwing away food that is really good is just simply unacceptable. And that from that will flow a lot of the policies and also other, both in government, but also in industry, retail, and then in people's homes, that this is just something that it's taboo. It's just something that we don't do anymore. So I think that's one piece that doesn't get enough attention. I think the other piece is technology. And I think we don't talk about the role and the possibility of technology to really help us make a tremendous amount of progress. So just even in the home, because the home is the hardest part, I think. And one of the companies that I'm working with is working on this where, the future technology can be that a refrigerator, once you put something in it, it monitors what you have.
I was hoping you were going to mention this. Tell us about what it does. It mysteriously measures the gases emanating from.
So there's the gas. Right now, it's not gas, but that's definitely the future. But you put a cabbage in your fridge, and it knows the refrigerator will be able to sense what you put in it, and from that we'll be able to say, that cabbage is about 2 days before it goes bad. Here's 3 recipes based on everything else you have in your fridge that you could make with that cabbage.
It's like your grandmother in your refrigerator.
Yeah, basically. No, that's exactly right.
Don't think you're going to market it that way somehow.
If you see that on commercials, we'll thank you.
I need a little,
I will give you a little.
No, I can't.
But I think
it's all free.
I think thinking about ways that we can bring real solutions to people, not just keep telling them like you're bad, stop throwing away food, but how do we really empower people and make it easier for them to reduce what they're putting in the trash, to make it easier for them to cook, is absolutely critical part. If we actually, a policy isn't going to solve this in somebody's home. And so I think we have to make sure we don't, while we address the policy imperatives, we're also addressing the other underlying parts and the other opportunities to think about this in a holistic way.
I want to throw in one quick thing, and then I know you want to probably go to the other way, but I think that part of why you put out legislation is so that it gets attention. Yeah. But then really it is these conversations and the cultural changes, and it got talked about earlier. I think we're now in a generation where maybe not only did your mother not grow up learning how to cook, you don't know how to cook, but your mother might not have known how to cook. So not knowing how to cook has a huge impact here in terms of using leftovers. So just to have information on the back of the package giving you that advice sometimes would seem like odd to the rest of us. Like somebody doesn't know you can put it in a Ziploc bag, but a lot of times people don't know those things. Second thing is when you have cities like San Francisco mandating composting, or I represent Portland, Maine, and now there's 2 services that will come and pick up your compost. Well, it's just been sort of like a taboo idea that you would take a wasted piece of food and you'd put it in a little can or container on your counter, and you'd leave it there for a few days till you put it in the bucket, and then somebody came and picked it up on the curb. We were all, people, I live on a farm, so it's not that unusual to me. But people find that kind of like, oh, you can do that, and it could sit there, and then I could put it in a bucket, and it's okay. So a lot of these things, we've just lost our ability to know what to do. And one other thing that Sam was talking about is this idea that the more you talk about it, the more it will become something you don't want to do. And I like to use the example of, it was like 4th graders who convinced us all to recycle cans and bottles. Because they learned about it in school, that was something you did on Earth Day. And then over generations, those kids would come home and say, well, what are you throwing a bottle in the trash for, And then they tell their parents, and their parents change their behavior. And I think that will happen, and a lot of schools are looking at different ways to do that, which is a great.
So instead of having a talk.